Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog. Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog are characters in a series of animated cartoons in the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes and Merrie Melodies series of cartoons. The characters were created by Chuck Jones. Ralph Wolf has virtually the same character design as another Chuck Jones character, Wile E. Coyote. Brown fur, wiry body, and huge ears, but with a red nose in place of the coyote's black one, white eyes instead of the coyote's yellow ones, and, occasionally, a fang protruding from his mouth. He also shares the coyote's appetite and persistent use of Acme Corporation products, but he covets sheep instead of roadrunners and, when he speaks, does not have the upper-class accent or the egotistical bearing of the coyote. Another crucial difference is that of personality. Ralph does not have the fanatical drive of the coyote in pursuing his prey, preferring to abandon his chase at the end of the working day. Sam Sheepdog, by contrast, is a large burly burgher debris with white or tan fur and a mop of red hair that usually covers his eyes. He very rarely runs and tends to be sedentary in his movements. He does, however, possess sufficient strength to incapacitate Ralph with a single punch once he catches him. Original appearances inspired by the frizz-frelling cartoon The Sheepish Wolf of a decade earlier. Chuck Jones created Ralph and Sam for a series of shorts. The first of these was Don't Give Up the Sheep, released on January 3, 1953. The cartoon proved a success, prompting Jones to repeat the formula 5 more times between 1953 and 1962. In 1963, ex-Jones animators Phil Monroe and Richard Thompson also starred the duo in their cartoon Woolen Underwear. The series is built around the satiric idea that both Ralph and Sam are just blue-collar workers doing their jobs. Most of the cartoons begin at the beginning of the workday, in which they both arrive with lunch pails at a sheep grazing meadow, exchange pleasant chit-chat, and punch into the same time clock. Work having officially begun with the morning whistle at 8 a.m., Ralph repeatedly tries very hard to abduct the helpless sheep and invariably fails, either through his own ineptitude or the minimal efforts of Sam, who always brutally punishes Ralph for the attempt. In many instances, there are also multiple copies of Ralph and particularly Sam. At the end of the day whistle at 5 p.m., Ralph and Sam punch out their time cards, again chat amiably, and leave, presumably only to come back the next day and do it all over again. Both Ralph and Sam are performed by voice actor Mel Blanc. In A Sheep in the Deep, the workday is interrupted by a lunch break, which they also conduct amiably. The operation seems to run 24 hours a day or at least into another shift, as when Ralph and Sam punch out they may also run into their nighttime replacements, Fred and George, respectively. In some of their earlier appearances, Ralph and Sam are named inconsistently, in particular Sam's shift replacement sometimes addresses him as Ralph. Shorts derivative appearances. Sam and Ralph have appeared in a handful of Warner Brothers projects since the closing of the studio's animation department. Sam has a cameo in the 1988 film Who Framed Roger Rabbit during the final scene, and they occasionally feature in the Looney Tunes comics published by DC Comics. Pop culture references on the episode Donut Run of the television program Veronica Mars. Veronica greets rival private detective Vinnie Van Lowe with "Mornin' Sam," and he replies, in kind, "Mornin' Ralph." Chris Rock mentions Ralph and Sam in his book Rock This. According to the text, a white classmate of Rock's who racially harassed him in high school not only resurfaced years later as his chauffeur, but also attempted to be amicable and suggested that they get together for coffee. Rock employs the time clock concept to racial tensions in schools by asserting that his tormentor was simply playing the role that he was dealt. The newsradio episode Twins played with the reference in reverse. Bill McNeil and Jimmy James pass each other while stepping through Dave's window. Jimmy says, "Mornin' Sam." Bill replies, "Mornin' Ralph," and Jimmy comments, "I love that joke." A deleted scene for the Family Guy episode Tales of a Third Grade Nothing featured Peter Griffin as Sam Sheepdog at the time clock with Ralph Wolf. In the episode, Blood in the Water, of the USA Network legal drama Suits, Louis Litt compares his relationship with Harvey Specter to Sam and Ralph in a conversation with Mike Ross. He explains that for years, Harvey and he would butt heads during office hours, but at the end of the day they would still be on friendly terms. Litt finishes the analogy by saying that recently Specter had changed and that it now feels like Harvey's always on the clock. Journalist Mark Leibovic mentions Ralph and Sam in an October 2016 New York Times Magazine profile of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, as a metaphor for candidates during previous, more predictable presidential campaigns. The names of Ralph and Sam have been applied to two sets of characters in the My Little Pony, Friendship as Magic comic book series, who engage in similar dialogue to Ralph and Sam. The first set are a pair of royal guards, a typical Pegasus and a bat-winged variant, while the second set are a pair of identical storm guards, minions of the primary antagonist of My Little Pony, the movie. During a scene in the Tomb Raider video game Shadow of the Tomb Raider, two members of the Trinity organization can be overheard greeting one another with an "Evening Ralph, Evening Sam" exchange.